Of course, darling, we are in a long night. Of course, darling, but don't care about nothing. I got you. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That we are on this church, and the church, when love comes, yeah, and they take it for granted. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That they want all my money, of course, and make me a pig, and things like those. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That they are taking for granted my love because it came down. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. And they want to make me a pig. Of course, darling, they are haunting me. They are taking my money. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. They want to take murderers and mafias and gangs to take care as guard keepers from my lives. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. But I got you. Of course, darling, don't worry about nothing because everything is gonna be fine. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. Don't worry because I got you. Of course, darling, we're gonna paint. Of course, darling, they are all trying to fall death by our side. That is what you can see, to be God and things like those. Of course, that is what you can see, that they want to kill the pig, and to kill the pig they throw bodies at the pig. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That is what you can get, so they try to hurt him, things like those. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That is a long night and we have many things to do before it disappears. But okay, darling, don't care about nothing because I got you. Of course, darling, so we sit here. So let's go. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That no one can against us. That we are gonna take care of our life. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That they want to haunt us. They want to take our money. The church is taking our money because it came down, and they want to make us pigs and kill the pig, throwing bodies at him. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. But don't care about nothing because we're gonna paint. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That I have much money, darling, that is what you can see. And we are gonna take care of everything, and we are gonna be fine. Of course, darling, we are gonna forget about them more. I can assure you that. Of course, darling. Of course, darling, they are trying to throw bodies at the Jew. Of course, they are trying to throw bodies at the pigs. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. And they try to hurt us the whole time. Of course, darling, and we have to dodge them. That is what you can see. That is what you can see. That no one can against me. That I'm gonna keep here. And that I'm gonna keep that. And that we're gonna be fine. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That they are trying to haunt us the whole time. But I'm gonna take care of you. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That you are in my heart. Of course, darling, the true colors are in my heart. Of course, darling, I got you. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That we are not gonna fall. Of course, darling, we are here nocturnal. You know that. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That I'm a little bit two-faced, but I'm fine, darling, and you can trust in me. Even if they say shit about me, it's not true. The reality is what you hear and what I say. Of course, darling, that is what you can see here. So let them. That is what you can say. That no one can against me. That I'm gonna give you a kiss. That I'm gonna make you feel fine. That I'm gonna make you feel right. And that we are gonna rise. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That they are the whole time trying to throw bodies at us, but they can't. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That we're gonna paint. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That no one can against us. That we're gonna be fine. Of course, darling, forget about them all. I'm gonna give you a kiss, and we're gonna rise, and we're gonna forget about these old people who wanna make us feel hurt. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. You can feel me in my red heart. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That is what they do. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That there are many people trying to hurt me, but they can't. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. You can find me in my red heart. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That we are gonna hurt the reds. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That they wanna hurt us, but we're gonna hurt them. Of course, darling, we're gonna hurt everyone who wants to hurt us. Of course, darling, you're my little princess. Of course, darling, everything is gonna be fine. Everything is gonna be right, and we are gonna find what we want. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That we are gonna dodge them all. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That they are after us, but they can't. They are throwing bodies at us, but we're gonna dodge them. Of course, darling, they wanna kill the pig, throwing bodies at him. Of course, darling, we're gonna forget about them. I can assure you that no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That they wanna hurt us. Of course, darling, they wanna keep us away from everything. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That you can find the true colors in my heart. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. Of course, darling, I'm gonna take care of you. That is a long night, but I got you. Don't care about nothing. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. That we're gonna rise, and that we're gonna find everything we want. Of course. That is what you can see, that we are full of opossums and things like those who play the death roll when you dodge them. Of course, darling, when you glance them, they play the death roll. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, but we can forget about them. Of course, darling, and we have many wolves and things like those. Of course, we want to throw pain and things like those. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that they are throwing pain at us and things like those, but we're gonna dodge them. Of course, darling, that is what you can feel, that we are gonna be like tigers. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, and if they want to push us, they can try it. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that no one can against us. If they wanna push us, we are gonna let them try. Of course, darling, and smile at them. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that no one can against me, that I'm gonna love you like no one can. Of course, darling, that is a long night, and they are taking us granted our love. They are taking away our love, and they are throwing bodies at us like we are the pigs and things like those. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that they wanna kill the pig and they throw bodies at him, but we are gonna smile at them. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that no one can against us, that we are gonna be fine, that I'm gonna love you so much. Of course, darling, that they are not gonna hurt us. I can swear you that. Of course, darling, you can find the true colors in my heart. Of course, in my red heart. Of course, darling. Of course, darling, if they wanna burn the tyger, they can try to push us. Of course, darling, we're gonna climb to the top of the mountain and they can try to push us. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, and we are gonna smile at them so long they push us. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that no one can against us, that they can try to push but they can't. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that we are gonna smile at them. Of course, darling, that is what you you can see, that no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that they are trying to push us, but they can't. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. Of course, darling, we're gonna smile at them. Of course, darling, you can find the true colors in my heart, in my red heart. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that no one can against us, that they are taking my money away just because I'm a red Jew. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, and they are throwing bodies at me. That is what you can see, but we are gonna dodge them. I can show you that. Of course, darling, and we are gonna forget about these all opossums and about these all wolves. And if they want to push us, we are gonna shake our ass. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. They can try to push us, but we are gonna be fine. We're gonna be well. No one can against us. Of course, darling, shake your booty. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. Forget about them. Of course, darling. Of course, darling, that is what you can say, but you have to shake your ass if they want to push the tyger. Of course, darling, you have to make everything fine. Of course, darling, that is what you can say, that you have to forget about them. Of course, darling, you have to sing, you have to eat, you have to do your whole thing. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that if they wanna try, you have to dodge them. Of course, darling, that is what you can see. You have to eat your whole meal. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that they wanna try, but they can't. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that no one can against us, that you have to eat. Of course, darling, and if they wanna try to push us like opossums and wolves, you have to shake your ass and you have to eat. Don't forget about them. Of course, darling, that is what you can say, that they wanna hurt us. Of course, darling, that is what you can say, but they can't. Of course, darling, that is what you can say, that they wanna try to push the tiger, but they can't. Of course, darling, that is what you can say, that they bring you your whole meal and forget about these old people are trying to hurt us. Of course, darling, that is what you can say, that they wanna kidnap us. Of course, darling, but I'm gonna give you to eat and forget about them.